Shalom, this is Mary Omni from the World Government House of King David, Holy Covenant Constitutional Enforcer. This is a Republic Notice. The title of this Republic Notice is called The Delusional Glory of the Black Man. This is called The Delusional Glory of the Black Man. This is not to say Joel Freeman or any of the writers and researchers of Black ancient history is incorrect or delusional. What this is to say is that it's delusional that the black man is glory in his own might and right. In other words, he could not be without the black woman. And this is the delusion that the black man perpetrates, that he could be without the black woman. When we speak of man, a lot of times we speak in general. We speak as humanity, okay? But the black man in his state, in his fallen state, is delusional to think he's glorified within himself as man in just his foulest glory. So when Joel Freeman writes a book saying the glory of the black man, he takes it literally. Just like white people take the White House literally. He has that same delusional type of spirit as many white people do. If we say the White House, they automatically assume it belongs to white people. And that shows a very deep spiritual immaturity. And so the black man has the same spiritual immaturity. When we talk about the glory of the black man, he takes it in a spiritual, immature way, in a delusionary way, that it is about him and his glory and his foulness, okay? See, he doesn't want to acknowledge that black men, as kings of the ancient, only came to the throne through the woman, okay? He want to pretend he came to the throne on his own. In his mind, in his delusion, he was born out of his phallus. In his delusion, he just appeared in the world. A woman didn't have nothing to do with it. In his delusion, he just built great kingdoms by himself without the woman he's born from. In his delusion, he can be great and he can be somebody that the world respects without the black woman he's born from. Yet, he wonders why he's in this fallen state. He wonders still in his delusion why he's in this fallen state. As I said in another video, 8 captivities, he tried to prove his glory. And in 8 captivities, he hasn't proven his glory yet to be above the black woman. All he's proven is that he is insane enough to keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. And that is to glorify himself, even if it means going into captivity. To glorify himself, even if it means coming under the rule of mutants and whips on his back for 300 and 400 and 500 years. Even in America today in 2013, we see this glorification with black athletes who get a little exchange, what we call fiat money. Then he acts like he has nothing to do with the black woman who invested in him 500 years, or his black nation, or his black mother's kind. He acts like when he's talking about black women and pointing the finger at all her flaws, that he's not talking about the woman he was born from. And as always, we're not talking about all black men, but we know we got enough. We see this cluster F on the internet. And this cluster F on the internet is sending videos and messages to the world, really about his delusion. The world might not see it as delusion at this particular time because the truth and revelation is still unfolding. But as the revelation comes out, this man will look like the biggest imbecile that have ever been recognized worldwide in the 21st century and in any earth age. The black man in America today will look like the biggest imbecile that ever has been on the planet once revelation unfold and the truth comes out. See, right now, he still is under the umbrella. He's still under Satan, Phallus Ball's umbrella protection. So he feels as though he can commit all this cosmic treason against the woman seed of Judah he's born from. He feels as though he can still point a finger at what Eve did in the garden, accuse this black woman of everything from him becoming faggots, accuse her of taking welfare and dismantling the family. He is in a constant accusatory state, as if he is so separate and he has no accountability or responsibility to this black woman whatsoever, or her state that he says she's in. If she gives birth to him and he says she's in this bad state, and he's pointing at her like, I'm pointing at all your flaws, but I don't have no accountability to you, then he's displaying his delusional glory within himself, even under an oppressive system that got 3 million of them in jail, where anal rape is becoming part of his torture, while he still glorifies himself. He glorifies himself enough to call black women, modern black women, bed wenches, and say, watch out for her, watch out for this, and watch out for this bed wench, while he is being anal raped in prison as the bed wench of the modern 21st century. Okay? He's bragging that he didn't protect the black woman. Now he's throwing his non-protection of her back in her face, calling her bread wenches and, aunt mamas and, master wenches and, anything an oppressor would call her. He thinks he's glorified enough to call her because he thinks he's glorified in his own state, even under oppression. Even under oppression, where 3 million of them are locked up, where they can be shot in the head randomly by cops. And they bedding all these Babylon women of all these foreign nations, the same women that voted to make sure he's locked up and oppressed. So in other words, he's glorifying in his glory in oppression under mutants, under mutant controls. And he's feeding vampires the blood of his nation just to glorify himself. Now, Malcolm X told us to ask, before we pat ourselves on the backs, what made us go from having kingdom civilizations, systems of law, writing, and everything, to fall under the rule of those who crawled on fours? And this is something that we fail to do. We need to address this as often as possible, because whenever you talk about the black man and his glory, you better also talk about, like Malcolm said, them 8 captivities that you had in your so-called glorification. When you fail to talk about them 8 captivities you had in your so-called glorification, then you're running around in states of delusion still. And you will repeat the same behaviors that put you in captivity in the first place, because you refuse to acknowledge, while you're talking about your royal greatness, how you came so far from this royal greatness to being a captive 8 times. 8 times. And even in this 8th one in America, you still haven't proven you're above the black woman. So you was willing to separate from her, war against her, sleep with foreign nations until they got enough power over your mind, your seed, your blood, to throw you in captivity 8 times. So you can have this separate delusional glory of this glorified black man. And each time you have this separate delusional glory, it leads to bondage. Just like many black men are on their way to bondage again. This time they're not dragging the woman with them, because God put forth a holy covenant. It's called a new covenant. And this new covenant protects the black woman from the man who has a determinism for bondage just to glorify himself in immediate temporal gratification. So all these foreign women he lays with outside of constitutionality, he's going into debt bondage with, debt world bondage with, and he will be in bondage with them. Him and his mixed children and his foreign nation woman would be in bondage, because no matter how much money he has, if he has children outside of the black woman that's in the Constitution with him, with investments in them 500 years, if he has children with other than her, then he has signed and sealed himself into bondage for about 42 more generations. And another thing, he will probably transfer to hell for 10,000 years. Because if 8 captivities didn't teach them, then the higher kingdom and the cosmic truth might look at this soul and say it may be something we have to write off. It may be something that has to go to a second death. So this is the delusion, and now he's talking about he's God and he's Jesus Christ. To be God or Jesus Christ, you would have to acknowledge you're born from the Judah woman, because Galatians 4:4, when the child was born, it was born under the law of the woman. But no, you want to be above Christ in your own glory. And this is why you want to be above the woman. You want to be in your own glory. And black women and God and the cosmic was patient with you and allowed you to drag us into 8 captivities just for this separate male glory and this delusion that you was born out of your penis, and this delusion that you're so much more than the black woman you're born from. When the whole chapter of Genesis tells you, if you don't have the rib, if you're not he and she married, becoming one flesh, that you're not really a complete man. So you're calling yourself God, and you've been calling yourself God before. So you're God in 8 captivities, being anal raped in prisons, and being shot randomly by anybody. You're God in 8 captivities. So when you read the glory of the black man, you better remember what Malcolm X said. How did you go from that? How did you go from that? You thought you was better than the royal womb. You thought you was better than the royal womb. But let me tell you this, you will never be a God without the womb. You will never achieve any kind of God status without the Judah womb if you're a black man. You're nothing without the womb and a rib. You're nothing. I mean, absolute double zeros. You're nothing without the Judah woman or the rib. You're not a God. You're not even a complete man. As a matter of fact, you're becoming fastly, and the world will start seeing 70% of you as a social retard. But we know the Most High going to put away 144,000. So that's what we assured of. We assured 144,000 real gods that will have the power. And that's only 12,000 from the tribe of Judah. So the rest of you is pretty much walking in delusions. And when we say 12,000 from the tribe of Judah, that don't mean 12,000 today. It might be some that was previous that's part of that 12,000. So it might only be a couple thousand. See, these are those ye gods, not you who think just because you in black skin and glory, you're a God. See, because a real God have critical thinking. And a real God is not willing to go into 8 captivities just to glorify himself and just to have the delusion. His delusion is quite all right to some simpleton social retard. The delusion is all right to a simpleton social retard. Long as he can have the delusions, he can be oppressed as hell, raped in prisons and everything. Long as he can have his delusions of glorification.
This is Mary Omni from the House of King David. Shalom.